Hey guys, on this episode of Farming Ain't Easy, we're gonna be setting ourselves up for success next year, growing more grass. In the meantime, you're gonna wanna stay clear and off of blades. I find this aerating topic actually quite interesting because, well, aerating is really a part of where we started as a farm and trying to keep our hay in production longer and get a bit more yield out of it and do more with less. That's been our philosophy in farming and in business since our inception when I started commercially farming. So we've been using these RanchWorx aerators ever since, but it's such a cool thing that you can do such an inexpensive pass over your land to help your soil fertility, soil health, and sustainability. But our yields, it all comes down to yields because yields are the money of the operation. And well, how do you get your yields? Well, for us, water. We're dryland farmers and water is a pretty big component of that. So what we're doing here today is we're aerating this beautiful field. Such pretty colors here today. I don't want to get sentimental on you guys, but just fall colors, can't beat it. But we were blessed with some pretty good yields this year because we had water and, well, we aerated last fall. So we're aerating this fall too. So we're gonna start here. We've aerated a couple small fields already. We're on to this one and we're gonna put some of that moisture in the bank account, as in the soil, so that hopefully we get as good a yields next year. It sounds funny when people say, why do you aerate? Well, I like air and water in my soil. Call me silly. But that's essentially the biggest reason that we aerate. We are dryland farmers. We do not have a surplus of water. The water that Mother Nature blesses us with is the water we're gonna get for the crop for that year. So if we can keep compaction out of our soil and the water stored as deep as possible, that's enough of a reason for me. So check this out, guys. With the RanchWorx aerator, we are driving 14 to 15 kilometers an hour, and we are burning on average between 14 and 16 liters per hour. I have not seen it go over 16 liters per hour. Going downhill is even shown as little as 20 liters per hour. Going up this hill on its steepest point, we are doing 15.4 kilometers an hour, and we are at an engine load of 26 liters per hour. All right, well, we can't make that stuff up, guys. You've probably seen the car pull over on the side of the road. I don't know what it is about aerating, but you get people stopping, asking you, hey, can you come over to my place and do mine? That's how we got into aerating. Is we owned one. We went out on a limb and bought one. And we actually grew part of our business growing hay and forages by doing custom aerating and renting out our aerators. We've bought and sold several RanchWorx aerators because people are always looking for the work done. So if any of you guys are entrepreneurs and you want a bit of a side hustle, buy an aerator and go custom aerating or renting it. There's a lot of people that are curious to learn about them, and as you see, can't make that stuff up. That's a perfect stranger stop on the side of the road was taking pictures and watching us aerate. So speaking of other people, something else just happened. I got a phone call from a buddy just down the road, and he drove by, he saw us aerating, and he says, you should put our aerator up against that RanchWorx. So sometimes a buddy's got a good idea. I'm gonna unhook, I'm gonna go grab that aerator. Watch this, guys. Some days we have plans on what a video is gonna look like and what we're gonna do, and sometimes they unfold and just turn into something better and better and better. So thank you to our friend here. He's gonna let us give his aerator a shot. We're gonna put his aerator up against the RanchWorx SB, and he's only, well, in the fast track doing 64 kilometers an hour. He's only 5 minutes up the road. So this is gonna be awesome. I am stoked now for this video. I thought I was just gonna show you some sweet fall aerating video pictures. Yellow tractor up against the yellow leaves. What else could you ask for? No, she's getting better than that. Watch this, guys. I don't know if you guys can tell, but we're going down a 2-lane highway here, and these cars are not passing us very fast. Speed limit's 90, and we're doing 70. I think that white car that just drove by was the guy that was watching us aerate. He's probably like, why'd they unhook from that sweet aerator? Well, first things first, I did something wrong. Maximum speed for towing implement, 15 mile an hour. I didn't go very fast on the way here, but I think I did more than 15. Oops. I think the reason they may say 15 mile an hour, likely limited to the tires. Like most implements, maybe they're unbalanced or the tires aren't good enough for highway speed. Obviously, we're not gonna be able to roll the RanchWorx aerator over, but this one folds up, obviously, so a little higher center of gravity, and then probably limited by the tires. They're a 10-ply tire, and I know already on the RanchWorx, I think they're 18-ply. Let's just check that. 16-ply. So one of our other aerators had a 42-inch drum, and I believe those are 18-ply, but on the 36-inch drum, they're 16, I guess. So yeah, that's probably a big difference why there's a little different speed rating on the highway. But as you can see, a good friend of ours saw that we were aerating today and said, well, let's see what our aerator does up against the RanchWorx SB series. This will be my first time ever running something other than a RanchWorx SB. This is a RanchWorx 19 by 36 SB. The 19 is the width and the 36 is the drum diameter. That's how the RanchWorx modeling sequence works. This is an Aerway aerator. As you can see, they're a lot different than a RanchWorx aerator. I've never pulled anything other than the RanchWorx, but let's take a look at this thing. So obviously it folds, it's in 3 sections. Our 19-foot is rigid and obviously just 1 section. As you can see, the concrete blocks are to add weight. That's pretty similar with most other aerators other than the RanchWorx, is that they have to carry their weight. The RanchWorx is built out of really, really heavy steel, and all their weight, in addition to the framework, is in the drum. So you can fill the drums with water if you need more weight. So their big claim to fame, and kind of why we've always gone with the RanchWorx, is that we're not carrying the weight. So when you carry weight, the bearings on all these tines, you know, all these bearings are carrying weight, versus on the RanchWorx, the weight is the drum and you're just pulling it. So very similar to a land roller is how I'm not an engineer, but that's how I understand it. And this is obviously a tine style aerator. So these tines are gonna roll and cut, poke into the ground. I don't know the terminology here. All I know that these are a tine, and they're obviously replaceable by bolts if and when you break them. So the RanchWorx aerator, those blades are warranted for life against breakage. If you hit a rock or break an aerator blade off of the RanchWorx, no questions asked, warranty for life against breakage. So all right, so just wanted to verify how wide to make my my GPS line, and it is. I'm gonna make exactly a 25-foot pass. The RanchWorx aerator, I know for a fact, it actually fractures about a foot wider than the machine. So on the RanchWorx aerator, you may notice that we miss a little bit of a spot in between our passes. That's intentional. So on a 19-foot machine, we actually set our GPS for 20. Because the soil penetrometer, which will show you, we actually fracture the ground wider than the machine because those blades seem to fracture about 360 degrees around every incision. So I don't know if the tines do that on an Aerway, but we're just gonna run her at 25. Enough talking, let's get to work. Here it goes. I've never pulled anything other than a RanchWorx aerator. And I've just dropped this Aerway into the ground. Huh. We're really doing it. It's actually pulling really hard. Yeah, it pulls quite a bit harder than the RanchWorx. You can feel it kind of dragging and pulling through the dirt a bit, but that's okay. We'll get out in a minute here and see the job it's doing. So right off the bat, the interesting part is, I've already mentioned with the 19-foot RanchWorx aerator, our maximum fuel burn at something like 15 kilometers an hour coming up that hill was 26 liters an hour. I'm going down that hill right now, and we are only doing 7 kilometers an hour, and we are burning 34 to 36 liters an hour. And that is only at 7 kilometers an hour. So keep in mind, less than half the speed, and we're actually going downhill. It is pulling harder, quite a bit harder. You guys want to see what this looks like? There's a little shot for you from the cab. 25-foot Aerway aerator. All right, so something a little bit unique is happening here. Is I can't actually pull this thing over 8 kilometers an hour. So just to give you an idea of how much extra power the tines are taking to do their job versus the RanchWorx blades, I'm going up the same hill that we were talking about a few minutes ago, and I'm at 6.5 kilometers an hour at 100% engine load. You know what? I might have just pulled a funny one on you guys. Actually, I was only in two-wheel drive. I've only ever aerated with the RanchWorx aerator in two-wheel drive. I'm sorry, guys. I know we're trying to do a heads-up test here, but I don't know. The RanchWorx didn't need four-wheel drive. All right, we're in four-wheel drive. Still climbing the hill. What made me notice that was I noticed the wheel slip indicator was bouncing between 9 and 10% wheel slip in two-wheel drive pulling this aerator up that hill. And now that we are in four-wheel drive, it didn't actually lower it to 0. We're actually between 6 and 9%. We're still no, not 6 to 8% is the wheel slip right now. So yeah, they definitely don't pull as easy as the RanchWorx. That RanchWorx, if I were to categorize it, it pulls only slightly harder than a land roller, which is pretty impressive. You know, we're trying to make money here farming. We want to grow the best crops. Aerating is going to help us do that, but we also don't want to spend too much money doing it. So if I can burn less fuel, I'll take that. All right, well, you guys want to see the results? Well, let's check this out. We'll use our handy dandy. It's actually hard to see where you've been. This is a tool where you definitely can benefit from GPS because it's hard to tell where you've been, even though you're doing all that work in the subsoil. These aerators are capable of fracturing up to 24 inches deep. So you know, it's zero till on the surface and all the heavy lifting's being done underneath. So, all right, so this is a penetrometer with a gauge on the top. There's some notches on the stem here on the rod, and each of those notches is 3 inches. So essentially, if we were to bury it all the way up to the black handle here, we'd be at 25 inches deep. So I don't know if you guys can see that from here, but we are about a set of notches away from the black handle. So we actually pushed that in with fairly low pressure, and we pushed it in 3 inches. So we must be at that last line. It's reached some pretty hard soil there. The gauge, I'll turn the handle around here. As you can see on the gauge is really starting to spike. We're up into that 250. We're getting close to 300. I'm leaning on it. I'm 255 pounds. And we're up into the red zone. So let's pull that out. We put that probe approximately 25 inches into the soil. And the highest reading, we got was about 220 pounds. So just into the yellow. You can see where it turned from green to yellow. We just went into the yellow for a brief second and hit probably 225 pounds. But for the most part of that push, we were probably only over about 100, 150 pounds of pressure. And again, for fair warning, these are the Ranch Tech pasture blades. This is still a pretty brand new aerator. We got it last fall. We've had it for a year now, but we had such a wet spring, we weren't able to use it much this spring. So hence why we didn't do many aerating videos. But these blades here are the Ranch Tech pasture blades, and they're the 6-inch version. These blades are also available in an 8-inch version. If you're a commercial brush clearing company or you're putting some serious acres on, every year you can go to an 8-inch blade, which is an extended life blade. These blades in 6-inch, I believe, are advertised to last between 20 to 40,000 acres, depending on the width of the machine. Anyways, let's go see this Aerway's work. All right, so over here at the Aerway, we're looking at their tines. The machine's parked. The weight is off of the wheels. And to give you, again, a bit of a perspective, is the way I understand it is an Aerway has to carry its weight. And a RanchWorx's weight is all built into the drum. Don't get me wrong, the steel weight of the frame contributes, but we're not carrying the weight. It's in the ground at the point of impact. And this aerator, these blades are not getting into the ground all the way. So even with, this looks like some type of weight package, it's still not quite heavy enough to get these blades all the way in the ground. The framework of the Aerway aerator is about 4 5/8 inches off the ground, which is about 12 centimeters off the ground. The Aerway's blades, the working area of the blade is about 6.5 inches long. So with that being said, we're only getting this aerator a couple inches into the ground at most. I would say somewhere between 2 and 2.5 inches into the ground is as far as we're getting this into the ground. As you guys can see from the drone imagery, the job that the RanchWorx is doing versus the job the Aerway is doing with its tines, the RanchWorx is using its blade to make a nice clean incision into the ground, and the torque of the spiral and the torque of the drum turning is what's cracking the ground. An Aerway may have a slightly longer tine if you can get it all the way into the ground, and there's a little bit of a twist on the blade. So the amount of tine that's in the soil, so that 2.5 inches, 2 to 2.5 inches that we're able to get here today, that 2 to 2.5 inches is what's doing all the work. Let's see how much torque the Aerway's tines can apply to the soil to alleviate compaction. Okay. Maybe. Okay. I'm gonna pull this out. At 7 inches, we felt our first layer of compaction. I'm gonna put the penetrometer right into the same hole, and I'm at 250 PSI, I'm at 300 PSI. And the probe is almost 12.5 inches into the ground. Put the penetrometer back in the hole. I'm at the do not exceed. I feel like I'm leaning too hard, these plastic handles, but you saw the needle get almost up to the do not exceed line. What we would say maximum depth we achieved with the probe without breaking the probe was 15.5 inches. So the proof's in the pudding here. I really don't want this video to be a this versus that, even though that's kind of what we're doing. I got nothing against Aerway. We use a RanchWorx aerator for those reasons. They're easier to pull, they fracture the ground deeper, and judging by the look of the field finish, they have a nicer field finish. They are for sure a zero-till aerator. These are kind of tearing through the root structure, the tines I should say, versus the blades are making like a doctor's scalpel, a really nice clean incision. So I can't help but think that the from an agronomy perspective, that the plants are having more of like a tearing nature to the rhizome of the grass. So a little bit more of a tear. Oh, you can actually see that right here. So a little bit more of a tearing motion. Actually, what's happening there is kind of funny. The piece of sod that I lifted up, I didn't realize that. All of these torn pieces of sod are in my tire tracks. So I was kind of complaining about, 6 to 8% wheel slip, even in 4-wheel drive. We were up to 10% wheel slip in 2-wheel drive. I never even thought of putting it in 4-wheel drive because I always pull the RanchWorx in too. So what's happening here is the cutting that the tines are putting into the rhizome layer, a little bit of wheel slip. I'm actually causing some pretty good trauma to the grass. This is probably going to winter kill. As you can see here, this piece of sod's very root bound. This whole field is likely root bound. There's not much alfalfa left in it, but these roots are only going down a couple inches before they're hitting their first layer of hardpan. So with that being said, we want the RanchWorx aerator to make the cleanest incision into that rhizome layer, because if we start causing trauma like what we're doing here by spinning our tires and ripping the sod out of the ground by pulling these tines through and the tires pulling these out of the soil, this is going to winter kill. This isn't going to survive to next year. So we're going to be relying on new growth in this very spot for next year's production. But the tip is, what we believe the tip is we want as clean of a no-till incision as possible, because we don't want this happening. We want that stimulation factor to happen so that we don't cause any extra stress to the plant. So as I was opening up the headland pass, going around these trees and shelter belts, I'm thinking, whoa, new piece of deadfall. I should stop and pick that up. But that's not that interesting. What's really interesting is that little bad dad right there. It's just struggling. All right, move the tree. But that's not where the fun ends. Or that's not where the fun starts, I should say. This little bad dad. Look at this, guys. I'm a bad judge of weight. All I know is I'm 250 pounds. Ow! Ah, just twisted my ankle on a gopher hole. What I do to make videos for the internet. Pretty big rock, right? I don't know. It's that big. It's hurt. My arm's burning. Anyway, what's a guy to do when he's got a big rock in his hand and a RanchWorx aerator? Throw it in front of the aerator. I heard that these aerators have a lifetime warranty against breakage on their blades. They are that tough. They're meant for agricultural and brush clearing applications. They're meant to hit the odd obstacle. Well, lifetime warranties are pretty good, so we're doing that. You know what I'm up to. We're gonna smoke that rock. This is not recommended. I do not recommend being hard on farm equipment. However, we're doing stuff for the internet, and here comes the rock. It's coming over there. Did you hear that? Conk. Let's go see if we got any broken blades. Well, that was really uneventful. Just a big bang under the aerator and a big yellow skid mark on my friend Rocky here. I don't really care how much damage to the rock. Let's see how much damage has been done to that aerator. All right, so we ran over that rock in the last couple 3 feet of aerator here. No wonder these are so easy to pull. Like, I'm just rotating this 19-foot drum. It's like it's on ball bearings. Funny, hey? Anyway, there's no dents. There's a few scratches. There's no bent blades, dents in the drum, missing blades, none of the above. Anyway, gonna have to find a bigger rock, I guess, but No, I don't like being hard on farm equipment, but I just thought, you know what? Let's run over a rock and see what happens. But check out that skid mark on there. Be like an Olympian and shot put Rocky back to the trees a little further than where I found him. Never to be hit by haying equipment again. Well, guys, sun's setting. I'm late for supper. I gotta go return this other Aerway to a good friend that let us play with it today. So this video is gonna come to an end. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, let us know. We love building content for you guys. We love your feedback, and look forward to next week's video. Thanks, guys.